Is Whistler from Blade helping the governor build weapons of vamp destruction? And on the other end, is Warlow really going to take a shower before he goes to seek out Sookie because he looks real dirty? Find out that and more with this week's review of True Blood.
Now, when I say, who's the master, you say, no.
So this week's episode of True Blood kind of slowed the pace down a little bit, which is to be expected. I'm not saying it in a negative way, but, they had to slow the pace down eventually. And then we started to getting the development of how the season's going to be going. We learn a little bit more information about Bill. We find out a little bit more about Eric and how great he is. And then we see about Pam and what happened to Tara. As well as Sookie gets a new boyfriend. So I don't even know where to start, but you know what? Let's start. I'm gonna break this down into things about the episode that I really enjoyed and things about the episode that I could have done without. I'll actually start with what I didn't like about this episode. The first thing I wanted to talk about is the story with Sam Marlot's what's his name? The cook. I can't even remember his name right. Terry. I'm sorry, Terry. So. Last season, I told you guys that this whole Enfreed storyline was not my cup of tea. I'm glad they found something for Terry to do in this downtime besides being the chef at Merlot's, but I really just thought that part of the season was pointless. So I thought that when, he killed his friend and Frit took his revenge, it'll be over with. But we started getting shades of the storyline opening up, with Terry's friend's wife coming back, or I won't say wife, but maybe it was his wife. She comes into Merlot's and she's pregnant and she's looking for him, and Arlene basically had to lie to her and tell her, hey, he ran off on you, he won't be back because he's dead, they killed him. So I'm hoping that was it. I don't even know what the point of bringing it up is. We didn't need to know that he had a wife. We didn't need to know she was pregnant. We didn't need to know any of that shit. So again, if this is what they're trying to use as a plot device to give Terry more storyline, they can figure something else out, just to be honest with you. On the other end, one of the things about the episode that I didn't like was in reference to Jessica. Now, keep in mind, I love Jessica. She's so hot, and she's a great actress, blah, 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 blah. But her sitting there praying to Billith at the end of the episode, it just kind of blew me. Like, I didn't get it. I didn't get the point of it. I understand she was very religious before she was transformed into the vampire. So when she learned about the vampire Bible and she got all into that, she kind of had a mesmeric, situation going on. She didn't know what was going on with Bill. I get it. I'm just telling you personally that I didn't enjoy her little prayer session with, Billith and, getting in his head and praying for everybody, Jason and Warl, the grandfather. Speaking of the grandfather, we'll get to that in a second. But, that was probably the two things about the episode itself that I could have done without. Now, let's talk about what I actually did enjoy about the episode. I am really enjoying where this story with Billith is going. Now, I know a lot of people are really upset about this, and I don't understand why. I think the Billith character is great. I think it kicks things up a notch, especially how shit is breaking loose right now. They need Billith right now, and I'm just going to put it out there because the governor, he crazier than cat shit. I'm just going to say that right now. He's cold, he's calculating, like the actual overall ebb and flow of this episode was kind of reminiscent of, back when, black people didn't really have, quote unquote, the same rights as white people. We had the KKK dragging people behind cars like they're doing with the vampires right now. It's just basically trying to give this like a modern twist to like persecution just because they're vampires versus because when they were black. I thought that was actually kind of crazy the way they did it, but it goes with the times. I'm not saying I hated it or anything, but it was just kind of weird to see it from that perspective because you almost feel for the vampires even though they feed on blood to live. Speaking about feeding on blood, so Billith is sitting there in this little comatose state. Jessica brings in this vampire hooker who basically had bite marks on her titty and on her neck and all over her body. She looked like she had been sucked dry a couple times by now. So Jessica thinks that the best way to fix Bill is to give him blood, and she's staring at him. She's like, "Oh, honey, I don't think he's moving." So then Bill used his telepathy to basically contort this bitch. I mean, this chick. He was basically like, this chick, the legs was breaking, her body was just floating in the air. It was crazy. Crazy. Then, to make matters even crazier, Bill proceeds to suck her dry without even touching her. He literally opens her mouth and all the blood from her body comes out of her mouth and into Bill's mouth. He basically feeds on this chick without even touching her. Sucked her dry. I thought that was amazing. So we learn a little bit more about Bill's powers. And later on in the episode, we find out that he can see the future as well. Now, I don't know if his abilities are starting to teeter on the OP, but based off of what the governor is doing, I'm just going to call him the governor because I can't remember his name right now, nor that I care to really pay that much attention to it. So it looks like so far that him and Warlow are going to be the big bads of the season, which is fine. Warlow is definitely one of those characters that look like they're going to definitely need some help with. He apparently is probably the oldest living vampire now that Russell Edgington is dead. So he actually broke through the plane of other existence wherever he was trapped before. So he finally makes it out, and Jason and Sookie are back together. They kind of just forgot. That was another thing really quickly. I know I'm jumping all over the place, but just follow me. So Jason swore that Sookie was no longer his kin. He hated her, blah, 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 blah. The next morning, he's completely forgotten about that, and he's back into this whole supernatural thing. I'm kind of glad they didn't draw this out, but at the same time, I'm just like, come on, guys. You guys could have picked that up a little bit. He could have apologized to her or something. Maybe we'll get it later. Not a big deal. But we find out one thing that we all thought last week, that the guy in the car with Jason was Warlow. I guess in like a human form is what I was thinking. Because it wasn't necessarily, I thought that was Warlow because we saw him before. But I thought that maybe he was in a disguise of some sort. But we find out that is indeed not Warlow. It is basically Jason's fairy godfather. And it became very clear that Jason really wants to have some sort of ability, but he doesn't. He's just a human. The fairy gene skipped over him, so he will not have any powers, which is fine. Jason is still a cool character. I don't think he actually needs any abilities to be cool in my book. Sookie learns a new power. She learns that she has like a fairy supernova. It's almost like the final Getsuga Tensho. Only anime fans will actually get that, so I'm sorry if the rest of you guys don't know what Bleach is. But apparently she has this fairy supernova, and if she uses it, it'll kill any vampire instantly. But the drawback is she'll lose her fairy abilities forever. That is totally a final Getsuga Tensho. Sorry, I said it again. Apologize. We also find out that Bill can see into the future. Early in the episode, before Bill spaced out, he was having visions of people being whipped with chains. He had visions of people being dragged, and he had a vision of a little vampire kid being set on fire. And I don't exactly know how the child was turned, because I thought, if I'm not mistaken, that turning children into vampires was like strictly forbidden. Even and again, I think that's across all genres. Even Twilight and True Blood and whatever else vampire shows, there was always something against turning kids. So I think that was and then they show in a vision that the kid was being burned alive. So I think what Bill realized by the end of the episode is he can see the future before it happens, and before the episode ended, it actually showed Tara and Eric and all of them inside of this kind of like silo. And then the light from the roof opens up, and it basically fries them all. So I think Bill now knows what he needs to do to try to prevent this. I don't think he knows how to prevent it, but he knows what his goal is to prevent everybody from getting killed, because it looks like these governors are very powerful. Now, that's actually the last thing I want to talk about before I end the video, the governor. So Eric disguises himself as a wildlife protection agent, and he sneaks in and he tries to glamour the governor. And when he tries to do that, the governor doesn't fall for it. He apparently has these contact lenses in his eyes that prevents him from being glamored, which I thought was ingenious. It definitely makes it so that the humans this season actually could stand a chance against vampires. Now, I never really enjoy seeing humans win against vampires, only because to me, I just can't fathom a human being being able to take on an actual vampire in a fight, considering their speed, their agility, you know, just things and their strength. But the way they're handling it is spot on, because it's not like they're just trying to do it kind of like what the last Underworld movie did, where they say that humans almost wipe out, you know, vampires, and they don't actually explain how or what kind of weapons they use. In this show, they actually are showing exactly how they're doing it, and we got some previews of that last week, where it looks like they're capturing vampires and putting them in like some sort of situation where they have to protect themselves, and they're learning every time that the vampires do something. They're learning and learning, and that's how they're developing their weapons. And I actually mentioned it at the very beginning of the episode that it's very reminiscent of Blade, because again, Whistler designed those exact same weapons, and I kid you not. The UV bullet, come on, the UV bullet. Ryan Reynolds' character, Hannibal King, used UV bullets in his gun. Now, I'm not saying that no other TV show can use it. I'm just saying, a silver bullet with a UV tip, that is exactly from Blade 3 Trinity. I kid you not. Go back and look at that movie, and it's there. Now, they're going to probably have some other kind of cool weapons, and I don't mind seeing them. I just want them to put a little bit of a different flair on it, just to make it not seem so blatant of a ripoff from Blade. But again, I'm not holding that against the actual episode. Just thought I'd bring that out. Now, the last part of the episode I want to talk about is the governor's daughter, who is hot. And I cannot wait to see her naked. I'm sorry I said that. I just had to. But you know you're going to see her naked before the end of the season. And it looks like from her in that dress, it's going to be awesome. The last thing, actually, again, I keep saying the last thing, but I keep remembering. One important part, and I know you guys would jump down my throat if I didn't mention it. Sookie has a new boyfriend. I shouldn't say that. It's not a new boyfriend. It's a new love interest. So she meets this half fairy randomly as she's walking to her shift at Sam's, and she just happens to find a half fairy lying in the brush who just got attacked by a vampire. By the way, if that vampire sucked his blood, that vampire should be walking around in the sunlight. So it'd be very interesting to figure out who the hell bit him and what the hell happened to him. So she meets up with this guy, and she immediately takes him to the house and tries to fix him up. Now, even knowing that he's a half fairy, he's still a person, and I'm like, I don't understand what's up with these Stackhouse. First, Jason spilling his beans to a complete stranger in the car. Then we have Sookie bringing this dude to her house to fix him up, just like it was nothing. I just wish these people would just learn. I guess they didn't learn when they were little. Stranger danger. Stranger danger. Like I said, overall, I'm going to give this episode a good. I thought there were some great things about the episode that I liked, and I think there was a little things that annoyed me, but not enough to try to, drastically change the actual score I gave it. So I'm just going to rank this chapter a good. Hopefully it'll get better. I know it will. It wasn't as great as the first episode, but that was again, like I mentioned in the last week's review of the first episode. That episode was actually fantastic. I'm going to actually attach it in an annotation above, so you guys can check out the first review from season 6 up above. Let me know what you thought about the episode. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? This is why we have the comment section. So let me know what you thought in the section below. Definitely thumbs up the video as normal, and subscribe to my channel. Shout out to King, the one and only, and you guys have an awesome night.